All right, so our definition of the first one, the acronym is SSS, and it says if three pairs of corresponding sides are congruent. What words do we put in here? So three pairs of sides, we're just going to call it side, side, side. Side, side, side. So we're just labeling what's labeled there for us. See how easy it is? Okay. These are our theorems that we use to prove triangles congruent. Alright. Next one. What do you... Yeah, side, angle, side. It's not that hard. Angle, side, angle. Angle, angle, side. Okay, so class, remember one talker, so that's one of our definitions of respect in here. I also, headphones should be out if you have headphones in right now. Okay, one thing I want to point out is they must be in this order. So if side, side, side doesn't matter, you know, all three sides are congruent. But when we have side, angle, side, the angle has to be in between there. It can't be ASS, it can't be SSA, it has to be SAS. Okay, so just make sure you know that. Same thing with angle, side, angle. That has to, the side has to be in between the two angles. And with this one too, angle, angle, side. Well, angle, angle, side, pretty much any combination you do would work. If you have two angles in one side, you know that they're going to match each other. Hypotenuse leg is the last one. Remember last class we talked about hypotenuse is the one opposite the right angle. So if the hypotenuse is the same and one of your angles is the same. Why would we not call this SAS, or side, angle, side? It's a right angle, but could a right triangle be side, angle, side? But is this in the right order for side, angle, side? No. So right triangles, you have to look carefully. If they give you an angle and two sides, just say, is that hypotenuse leg or is it side, angle, side? So go ahead and flip your page over. All right, and which one how do you think these are congruent?
Oh, side, angle, side.
Yeah, side, angle, side. So if this is confusing you, some people see this really easily, some people don't. You could always come mark if it's a line, if it's marked on a straight side, that's a side. If it's marked like this, that's an angle. So just write it out, just on top of the drawing if you need to. So this is side, angle, side. Do you guys remember what the congruent statement is?
Angle or triangle. A, C, B, C, A, B, A.
So triangle ABC, or we could do it in any order. We just need all three letters. There you go. Is congruent to triangle DEF. And so, yeah, make sure you start it in the same place. You have to do the letters in the same order, because that lets me know D and E are congruent to AB, and EF is congruent to BC, because those are the markings they gave us. All right. How about the next one? What do you think that is?
That's an HL.
Okay, so HL is an option. Is it? Or side, angle, side is an option. Or hypotenuse leg. Or anything else it could be? Yeah, so let's look at what we actually have here. Which sides do we know are the same? So this is the same, right? So PR is reflexive. It's the same line. So that's a side that we know is the same. Do we know anything about either of the other sides?
Both angle, side, angle.
Yeah. Because we don't know that they look the same, but if they aren't marked for us, we don't know those are the same, and we don't know those are the same. But we do know these angles are the same, and we do know that angle is the same. So angle, side, angle. And if I start with PRS, then it's PRQ. Okay, I'm going to start calling on people. You draw popsicle sticks. Because I know like 3 people know this because they've been volunteering answers, so we're going to see how the rest of the class does. Okay, that seat is not occupied. I got desk 17. Who's in 17? Oh. Okay. Okay, so looking here, what do I have here? What's this? So is this a side or angle? Okay, you guys be quiet. Let her answer. Is this a side or angle?
A side.
Okay. How about this one?
Side.
And what else do I have? Side or angle marked?
Side.
So what would it be?
Side.
Yeah. See how easy it is? At first it seems to not make sense, but then you just start looking at what you have. Okay, so then if I do label my first triangle as HEF, I'm going to draw a stick for what order my letters should be in a second triangle. So this time I got desk 21. Who's in 21? So Jaleesa's starting at H. Yeah, so like what order should I do? F, G, H? And so when we're doing this, you want to look. So H to E is starting out and going over the side with the one mark on it. So which side do we want to start with here? Yeah. So you guys pay attention to that because just pay attention to which sides you're crossing over. We make sure you do them in the same order so that each side is the same length. And it's harder to see usually when they're flipped over like this, but that's why you just go by the marks. Okay, next one. I got desk 24. Angle, side, angle, yep. How do I know that this middle angle equals each other? Yeah, vertical. Okay, I heard some eye moss there. So, are you guys with me on marking these angle?
Yeah.
Angle, right?
That's side.
And then sides marked equal. And then I know vertical angles equal each other, so I can count the vertical angles as those angles equal. So what I do is I label what's here. Well, so if it was side angle side, I would need a second side, right? So what I do is I label this and say, okay, what do I have? So I have 2 angles and a side, and then I check the order. If it's angle, side, angle, the side will be right in between the 2 angles. If I had, here, let me go back here. So if I have, because you're right, we have 2 options where there's 2 angles and a side. So if I've labeled 2 angles and a side, I just have to look at the order. If the side is in between, so the side is touching the 2 angles that are congruent, then it's angle, side, angle. If the side is not touching the 2 angles that are congruent, then it's angle, angle, side. Yeah, so see how here the side is in between those 2 angles? And here the side is over to the... So it's just the order of it. Making a little more sense? No, the order matters. Because it's what proof are we using. So you just have to pay attention to the order of it. Alright, can we go on? So angle, side, angle, and if I start with triangle, triangle VWX, I will draw a stick, and I got desk 9. John, are you 9, or is that an empty seat? Alright, what order should my second one be in? ZYX. Alright, last one on this page. I'm going to take a volunteer, because this one's a little different. Alright, Jacob. Okay. So, we have side, side, side. Enrique, are you following our one-talker rule? Okay, one-talker is me right now. Okay, so Enrique, I'll call on you. So, we had a vote for side, side, side. Do you agree? Or something different here? Okay, so it does kind of look like side, side, side. But who remembers what these arrows mean? Parallel. So if they're parallel, are they the same length?
No.
Well, can I have two parallel lines? Could I have a parallel line like this and like this?
Yes. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I could have parallel segments. These are still parallel. So parallel does not mean congruent.
So the lines on the left and right, they're parallel.
Yeah, so these are parallel, these are parallel, but it doesn't mean that they are congruent. Remember, we're dealing with proofs here. We're dealing with what can we prove. So we know they're parallel. Do we know this middle line is the same length?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just one line. So we can count that as a side. And then remember what property we call it when it's exactly the same. Reflexive, yeah. So when we start writing our proofs, if it's exactly the same line, we'd say reflexive. See, that's why we learned that word earlier. Okay, so what do we know using parallel lines, though? We can't prove anything about the length of the parallel lines. Can we prove something about the angles? Yeah, question? Yeah, they make the same angles because we have the transversal angle pairs. Do you remember what this is called when they're on alternate sides? Yeah, so alternate interior angles. And so when you see the parallel markings, you're going to look for your alternate interior angles, and then these would be alternate interior to the other parallel lines. And so then, what's my congruent statement? Angle, side angle, yep. Put the sides in between the two angles. And then if I start with MJA, who can tell me what the second? Oh, sorry, MJL. I was reading my angle sign. MJL, I'm sorry. What would my second one be?
KLJ.
KLJ, yep. And so if this is hard for me, I have to look real carefully when they're flipped over like this. Just look, M is the one angle that I haven't marked anything on, so K matches. L has the two marks. You could turn it upside down if that works too. Okay, so flip to the next page. Alright, these ones you're going to do on your own or in your group. Should we take 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
5.
Okay, who wants to be my timekeeper?
I'll do it.
Alright, can you set a 5-minute timer? Okay. Alright, so I got desk 15. Okay, Kaden, are you 15?
Yeah.
Alright, do you have the answer for this first one?
On which page?
Page 10.
Yeah, I'm on the last page.
Alright, can you go back to page 10? And
Yeah, it is side, side, side.
yeah, side, side, side. So we just had to recognize this is side, middle reflexive side, this is the side, the other triangle has the same ones. Alright, desk 16. Are you Michaela? Alright, how about problem 2? What'd you get?
HL.
Yeah, so HL. So was there any confusion on that one? No, because it would be side-side angle, which isn't an option. So since it's a right angle, we have the hypotenuse, we have the shared leg. Alright, desk 25. Alright, what'd you get for that one, EJ? ASA. Alright, desk 30. Lorraine, what'd you get for number 4? Angle, side, angle, same thing. And desk 27 is... Who's in 27? Matthew. Matthew, what did you get for number 5?
Yes. AAS.
Okay, so we had a yes, AAS, so I had angle here, which side is congruent?
Oh,
So how do I know that one's congruent? But I don't know that. I have vertical angles, right? But that's another angle here, right? So this would be vertical is, so I have angle, angle, angle. Are they congruent by angle, angle, angle? No. I don't know why.
Because you have different sizes.
Yeah. If I just take equilateral triangle, I could have a little tiny baby equilateral triangle with all the angles the same. And I could have a real big equilateral triangle with all the angles the same. So they can be, we call those similar triangles, but they can be complete different sizes and still have the same angles. Yeah.
So when we leave it AAA?
So A, we would leave it not congruent. That would be the answer. Or no. Usually on your test or quiz, usually not congruent is the option, the official wording. Okay, so 7 and 8. So I can continue teaching when we're quiet again. Okay. So 7 and 8. Did some of you already try this?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. So let's make sure for the ones who didn't try it, let's go through it. So we have to mark it because they give us some information here. So if E is the midpoint of KW, what do we know about the line KW? Midpoint means what? It's the exact middle, so that means half equals half, right? So I'm going to mark, because it told me mark the drawing. So I mark these two sides are congruent, and so I mark those with side. And then angle KEG is congruent to WEH, so I'm going to mark that. So that means I have an angle there. And angle K is congruent to angle W. So what's my congruent statement? Angle, side, angle. And so the step I'm doing here is I'm just taking what they give me. Midpoint means I mark the two halves equal for side length. Angles means I mark them congruent. On problem 8, do we have problem 8? What does the word bisects mean? Yeah, and so again, I'm going to mark the two halves equal. So if it, class, one talking. If it marks the, if it bisects angle BAD, that means that I come to angle BAD and mark the two halves congruent. So I have an angle there. And angle B is congruent to angle D, so I'll mark those congruent also. Do I have the third thing I need to prove these congruent?
Yes.
Yes, what is it?
The line in between.
Yeah, the reflexive line in the middle, right? So what are these congruent by? Very close. Yeah, because see how the sides is not touching both angles, so it's angle, angle, side. Alright, the next two are nice and easy. They give us part of the information we need. We have to add in the third one. So here they give me a side, they give me an angle. And if I'm trying to prove it by side, angle, side, which sides have to be congruent? Yeah. So I'd need to say DA is congruent to TO and mark them on the drawing. How about problem 2? What's missing for that one? Okay, so I'm hearing lots of different suggestions there. So, yeah, so we need to mark the angles the same, right? So angle B or angle ABD. Can I use just the single letter here if I say angle B? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, because there's only one option from angle B, but I could also label it ABD. So angle B is congruent to angle C. Alright, go ahead and flip it over. One last page of notes. Okay, so now those of you who didn't like proofs before, maybe you'll like them by this point because most people find these a lot easier. So, what is our first statement? Given, right? So we always start with our givens. They told me these are the midpoints. When I have midpoints and I label them and the halves equal each other, what do I call that reason? Definition of midpoint. Yeah, you can abbreviate it, as long as you know what it means. So now it says LNS is congruent to WNK. How do I know that those angles equal each other? They're congruent, but how do I know that? Is it given, is it reflexive, or is it just from the drawing? And what type of angles do we call those? Yeah. So, okay, just vertical. And then I can label on my drawing, I can label it here. How are these congruent? Yeah, side angle side. Or SAS. Is that easier than the proofs you did last time? The first ones are the hardest, and then they just kind of get easier as we go along. Part of it is that you also get familiar with some of the terms, so it gets easier. Okay. You will. So we're going to go ahead and write our proofs here, so statements and reasons. What do I always start with? Given. So angle G is congruent to angle B. And that's already marked on the drawing for me. And second, CB, what does that symbol mean? Parallel. So CB is parallel to GA. Oh, I'm sorry, that is totally given, not parallel. Do you remember what to look for when you have parallel lines?
Arrow.
Yeah, so the arrows. And then what do we prove from parallel lines when we're trying to prove triangles congruent? I heard someone say it. Do parallel lines tell us about the angles congruent or sides congruent? Angles, right? We don't know anything about the length of the parallel lines. It's not given to us. But I can do my alternate interior angles, right? So that would be angle
Side angle.
GAC is congruent to angle BCA by alternate interior angles. And you can abbreviate that if you want to. Technically, alternate interior angles theorem, if you want to write it all the way out, which I don't, but I did it anyway. And then, next, do I have another side or angle I can mark in the drawing? Yes, which one? So GA and CB, those are my parallel lines. I can't prove that they are congruent, but there is another side I can prove congruent. So CA, there we go, we found it. So we have a reflexive side in the middle, right? So if it's the exact same line, does it have to be the same length? Yeah. So we just do line CA is congruent to line CA and label that reflexive. And so are we ready to prove the triangle is congruent? Yes. So angle GAC, triangle GAC is congruent to triangle what? What order? BCA, yep. And by what reason? So this can help just to go down here. So angle side angle or angle side, which order are they in? Yeah, so I can come back and write it on my drawing, angle side. I could write it here, angle side. You just have to check that you did your proof in the same order as the drawing. What do I have to do now? Oh yeah.
If you don't have it in the same order of proof, then it's technically incorrect. So you either have to change that in the same order of proof, or you have to add a step 6. And
But we do, in this one, we do have it in the same order of proof, because we have...
the proof says GC.
Oh, you're right. I did, so then... What kind of, so, you're right, you did get it. Okay, so what should I have done differently? I should have done my statement in just in this order. Does this statement, is that the same level of truth as this statement?
I can't think.
But it's not stated, right? So I should make sure I have it in the correct order. All right, so that is the end of our notes.
Nice.
Who